Hi, everybody. How are you going? Happy Monday. Hope you all had a really lovely weekend. Today, what I want to do is talk with you about self-sabotaging in your private practice. And if this happens to you, you're absolutely not alone. What I want to talk with you about today is what it is, how to recognize it, how to know if you have it, or if you're doing it rather, and what you can do about it so that we can get you unstuck and living your dream when it comes to running a private practice that feels really balanced and aligned for you. So I know you're a therapist, so you know what self-sabotage is. It's when we stop ourselves in some way, shape, or form from taking action or really believing that we can have the things that we really want to have when it comes to running our beautiful private practice. Now, self-sabotage can manifest in your business in a number of ways. So first off, it can happen maybe unconsciously. You're just not aware that you're self-sabotaging. You're not aware. You're perhaps sitting there and you're thinking, I'm doing all of the things, but nothing's really working for me. Now, it could be because perhaps just an idea, but there might be a deep-seated belief that you're holding on to that's sitting in your subconscious that's preventing you from completing all of the things that you need to do or taking that really truly aligned action that you need to do. You have to remember our brain is so amazing, and first and foremost its function is to keep us really safe and protect us. So it wants to stop us from doing anything that it might think is unsafe or risky. Okay, so that's the first thing to understand, and we'll talk about what to do if that happens in a minute. The other thing is, if you're consciously aware that you're self-sabotaging, and I know a bunch of you are because we've discussed this in our online communities and also in some of the one-to-one work, and that's just simply where you're fully aware that you're you're taking most of the steps but not all. You're doing most of the things but not all. Like there's something there that's stopping you, and it can be anything. Like it could be, I don't know, a fear of failure. Like, what if I do all of the things and it doesn't work? Or it might be the opposite. It could be fear of success. What if I do all of the things and then I'm successful? What's going to happen with my money, my time? Does it mean I'm going to have to spend more time at work? Will I have to deal with the whole headache of recruiting people? What will it mean for maybe I don't want to grow? All those sorts of things. So only you know the reason that you might be procrastinating or self-sabotaging. But anyway, it can be subconscious or conscious. The other thing that can lead to self-sabotage is lessons and experiences that we had from childhood. I mean, even myself, when I was growing up, it was a long time ago, but when I was growing up, I had zero confidence when it came to learning and when it came to academics. I didn't even have a career. My father, so there were six of us children. I'm the eldest of the six. There's 7 years between us. And late one night I was up, as little girls are, and I was listening to the door as you do. And I overheard my parents talking, and I heard them discussing their hopes and dreams for all of us children. And when it got to discussing me, I heard my father say, listen, she's not that brilliant. How about we just, hope and pray that she can get married at 15 or 16 to a nice guy, and she just raise a family, and that will be her thing. And I heard them talk about my brother, and they were talking about how they would help my brother become a pilot. And then there was another sister I had, and they were saying, oh, she's really gifted and she's really talented, and let's support and encourage her and do everything we can to help her be a pediatrician. And then there was another sister I had, and they were like, yeah, she's brilliant, well worth the investment here. How about we help her and support her to become a veterinarian? But I was kind of like just written off. So from a very young age, I knew that well, if your own parents don't think you're going to be very good at anything. So I learned a childhood lesson that I was never good enough, or I would never be that type of person that could have academic success. And, we know today that's just not true, but that was the lesson that I internalized. And so I'm sharing this with you because it's possible that for some of us, we've all internalized lessons growing up that aren't necessarily true. And if that's happened and that's affecting you in your business and you're now self-sabotaging, this could be a really great opportunity for you to go and get some mentoring around it, not supervision, mentoring, because mentoring is solely and wholly about the business side of private practice. And this is affecting your business. Supervision is not therapy. It's not a substitute for therapy. Supervision mostly is around, how you show up in your work as a therapist doing the therapy in sessions with your clients. And from time to time, yes, you're going to be talking about things like ethics and admin and forms and paperwork and documentation, those sorts of things. But mentoring would be the place where you unpack the self-sabotage. But anyway, and another reason that you might be self-sabotaging, another cause, and there are many, I'm just going over a few of the common ones in our industry, in my experience that I've seen, is cognitive dissonance. So cognitive dissonance is when, like, in your head you're aware and you kind of know you should do something, but there's something else going on that's saying, oh, I don't think so. To give you an example, what's a good example? So a really good example is, therapists are struggling financially and they're working, but they're struggling financially. They're paying the rent, they're paying the bills, but they're not paying themselves. They're living off their savings, or, they're taking out loans and getting themselves in debt and all of this sort of stuff. But there's dissonance there between charging the right fee for their practice. So every practice has its own fee, right? And there's a lot of variables and factors that go into that. Again, that's something you'll discuss in mentoring, not in supervision necessarily, because it's quite a big thing. But anyway, sometimes when we're not charging the right fee for our private practice, it's because we don't feel we're good enough for that fee. We doubt whether the service, not even the service, we doubt ourselves. We say, oh, I don't know if I can really charge that fee because I don't have this qualification, or I don't have that much experience, or I know someone who's got more qualifications than me, but she charges less than I am now, so it wouldn't be fair. And there's all this stuff that comes up. So there's a cognitive dissonance between, what you need to do to keep the business going, and what fee is the right fee for your practice, hopefully. But there's something there that's stopping you from taking action on that fee. So that's what cognitive dissonance is. Again, that's a mentoring thing. And so the ways that self-sabotage can show up in your private practice are things like, common ones are procrastination. So, delaying and delaying and delaying. So what this can mean is delaying a fee increase. It might mean delaying doing a live video on your social media. It could mean delaying anything. And really what's behind that delaying is an avoidance of a perceived consequence, okay? The other thing that can happen is, instead of procrastination, we've got perfectionism, and some people wear it like a badge of honor. Oh, I'm a perfectionist, But I don't know about you, but my sense of perfectionism is it can be a way that you self-sabotage, because again, we're avoiding things like that our brain says to us that don't necessarily happen in real life, but we avoid things like, not putting out something that's going to be, well received, or we avoid taking action, or we hold back. It's a safety mechanism. I believe that a lot of perfectionism is underridden, if you like, by anxiety, by real fear. And I think people hide behind this idea of, it's got to be just right, it's going to be just right, as their way of coping. And again, that's something you take to mentoring because it's affecting your business, or you could take it to therapy. but probably not necessarily a supervision thing. Okay, can discuss in supervision, but I would prefer you did it in mentoring. The other thing is, I want to give you some prompts here today so that you could figure out if you're self-sabotaging. So I've written them down on a piece of paper here. I'm just going to read them off. So I guess the first one is, are your actions in your private practice aligning with the intentions that you have for the business? So are your actions in private practice really aligning with the intentions that you have for your business? So think about the intentions. What do you really want to do? Like, why did you start the practice? Who do you really want to help? Who do you really want to work with? Reconnect with that, like bring that back to your awareness, and then sit and think, am I actually behaving and acting in a way or taking the right actions that marry up really beautifully? And that's what we call alignment, aligning with the private practice intentions, right? So that's the first thing. I would definitely start there. I'm all about the very first place you want to start in your private practice is with your intention. If you notice that you're avoiding things, that could also be a sign of self-sabotage. So I'd love you to think about how are the behaviors, how are the steps, how are the actions that you're taking in your private practice or not taking, aligning with your values for the private practice. So think about what you really truly value. Do you value things, and you're going to have a lot of different values, I appreciate that, but you value some things for clients and wanting to help and wanting to give back, yes, but you need to, as a business owner, you need to also value other things, like there are other reasons you chose not to work for somebody else. Let's think about that for a minute. You probably wanted more freedom, you probably wanted flexibility, especially if you've got young ones and other commitments, and you're caring for people. You probably want that freedom, balance, time flexibility, all of those sorts of things. So think about, are the actions that you're taking consistent with the values that you have over here? And if they're not, is it possible that you're self-sabotaging? I bet you that it is. The other thing is, what do you believe to be true about taking action on your private practice? Okay. And are those beliefs true, and how are those beliefs impacting on your ability to create success? Again, probably some great journal prompts there. You can pause this video, rewind at 15 seconds, write them down if you like. But again, they're probably things that you would take to a mentoring session and unpack. So the difference really, as I see it, as a clinically endorsed supervisor and as a coach and as a mentor, people often ask, well, what's the difference? What would I take to supervision and what would I take to mentoring? So supervision, in my view, and it's just my opinion, needs to be more focused on the clinical day-to-day things that you're doing in your practice, or not clinical, but therapeutic things that you're doing in your day-to-day practice. I want to use that time to discuss cases, case formulations, where you're feeling stuck, look at the ethics of things, unpack dilemmas that you're having in your private practice, make sure you've got your key documentation in place, all those sorts of therapeutic things about the therapy. Okay. And from time to time, as I mentioned, we'll talk about admin and things like that. Mentoring is solely and wholly on the business. This is not a place to discuss what you're doing with clients. It's not about the therapeutic interventions that you're working and your PD. It's not about any of that. Mentoring is solely and wholly about what's the goal that you've got for the business, what's getting in the way of you getting it, how do we move forward? And it's very intentional, it's very results focused, it's very action driven, and the whole idea of it is to get the practice motoring along in the direction that feels really, really good for you. And by that I mean that is aligning at this point in time with the values of the practice and the intention you have for the practice now, which may be very different for some of you from what they were when you first began the practice. Okay, and the reason for that, of course, is because we evolve, we accumulate practice wisdom, we do more PD, we do more education. I think we just get better with experience, and we just get better with age. But you will notice certainly that the practice is going to be evolving. And so if you're not updating other things in the business side of the practice, there's going to be this disconnect, and that can affect things like your annual turnover. It can affect things like recruitment. It can affect retention of clients, retention of staff or team, your marketing, all that sort of stuff have this really big sort of ripple effect. So mentoring, unlike supervision, is quite goal directed, and the big idea of it is to get you the result at the end. So next time you're thinking about having supervision or having mentoring, just ask yourself, what do I really want to achieve? What's my intention? Do I want to be talking about the therapeutic things mostly, and do I need to get my hours up? For those of you who are wanting to accumulate your hours for supervision, like think about your intention there. Or is this because I want to have a better practice that gives me back my time, that gives me back my freedom, that is really flexible so I can still support myself financially, even if I take a day off, all those sorts of things? That's mentoring. So I hope that's kind of clear about the difference between the two there. Of course, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know. You may have seen from the post below this video, or maybe it's 2 posts down now, I have 4 places left now. There were 5 yesterday. There are 4 places left now for mentoring with me for this quarter. So if you want to, quarter being 90 days. So if you want to jump into that program, of course, let me know. If you have any questions about it, let me know. You can have a 6-month mentoring program with me. And then if you want, you can go on your merry way, or you can roll it over for another 6 months, or if you like, you can just jump into a 12-month program, and there's payment plans and all that sort of stuff available. And of course, it's a tax deductible for you. You get your invoices and receipts and all of that sort of good stuff, and loads more. So if you want information, let me know. I'll pop the link in the comments so you can just click and have a little look and see if it's for you or not. But you can get through self-sabotage. You've got some prompts there to start working through. If anything comes up for you when you're working through those 3 prompts that I gave you there, and you're wanting a safe space to discuss it, was totally free of judgment and all those sorts of things, of course, send me a private message. Don't do it in the public comments. Of course, this is your invitation, absolutely, to connect with me in private message and just let me know what's coming up for you. And if you need help sort of unpacking it, happy to help you with that, of course. All right, my lovelies, have a beautiful, beautiful week. Let me know what your intentions are for the week ahead, and I will see some of you in the bite-sized training at 12 o'clock in the ACPPO online community. And I'll see the rest of you at 11 o'clock in the inner circle coaching call. Okay, have a wonderful week, everybody. Bye. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.